Like there are things that you can do that could get you in a better space, but it's not going to happen overnight. And it's certainly not just because someone has to go through discomfort or a really difficult challenge doesn't mean that you don't have the abilities and you can't equip yourself eventually to fully get through it.
A lot of people feel really trapped in the world. And so they're not going to invest the little time that they feel that they have trying to go get better when they feel like they're clawing through their day to day, just trying to make it. Hey, everybody, it's Bianca.
Hey, everybody, it's Emilia.
I want to bring all of you into the dialogue that Emilia and I were literally just having. And I told Emilia, stop talking so that we can hit record.
Yeah.
We wanted to dive into this episode talking about how you're investing your spare time. And Emilia made a comment saying, I want this episode to be primarily about. Can you repeat the sentence that you said? What did you say? Like how your job is like taking the perspective of your boss or something like that. What
Yes.
was it you said?
So like a little context for this. Like so to our listeners, I speak with a lot of business owners and people who are what I would say is primarily builders in the world. People who are trying to build and achieve towards something better, right? That's just usually the demographic that I attract. And as a result of that, I get a lot of behind the scenes thoughts and narratives, especially people who own businesses of what they think about people whom they employ. And because one of the most incredible things about the people that I work with are more growth oriented beings, those leaders, CEOs, managers, people who are trying to build a better, brighter future, they have these questions come to me and ask me, like, why don't my staff want better for themselves? Why aren't they trying to, in their spare time, build towards something? And I think that that's where this
Perfect.
question, this dialogue really exists.
Perfect. I'm gonna say what I said, and then I think you and I should just literally continue the conversation that we were
Yep.
having. Are you good with that?
I'm good with
Okay,
that. I'm nervous with that. And I
that's
will put a
fine.
disclaimer in here.
We're gonna rumble through this.
Let's do
I
it.
really believe this is valuable, so trust me.
I trust you.
I think we're gonna be fine. Okay.
Okay. Let's get it.
Why would employees, why would people in general care about having like building? Like most people don't care about that.
Yeah.
And like most people don't have like a significant vision for their future. Like most people don't care about their job. And like most
Yeah.
people literally just they go to work to get this is I yeah, they go to work to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
Like most
I
people
know
don't
that's what I have to
and
tell the business owners, and they're like, "What?" They, like, can't fathom that, and that's why they're business
but
owners.
okay, but you can't fathom it either though. That's what you literally just said to me. You're like, "I don't
Literally.
get it. Why?"
What's fascinating is I don't get it, but I intellectually know it. I don't fully understand it, but I understand, to your point.
Why would someone care about making somebody else money? That's the mindset. I talk to people who think like this all the time. This is like the majority
Right.
of my clients. Why should I care about making my boss more money when I'm not going to get the same amount of money that they're ever making, but I'm like the quote unquote boots on the ground actually doing the work that's getting them and their business the money. So, like, why should they invest in their spare time getting skills to make their boss more money?
This is wild.
I
That's a
know you
wild
think so
perspective.
differently about this.
That's such
I'm
a
not saying I
wild.
fully agree, but like that's
No, I
people's
know.
perspective.
I understand, and I think it's a really entitled perspective, to be honest. And here's why, because one of the things why, like, I can understand and I can comprehend, but I can't fully understand and comprehend. So I'll say that. Why would they? It's not even about, from my perspective, it's not even about making more money. Like it's just not, and that's the issue. And I think that to this is going to get spicy. So to this conversation, people who are building and who aspire to build a better, brighter future and just so happen to do that through a vessel of a business, an organization, a nonprofit, a community. They're trying to do things better in the world. And here's the
And
key point, they have
not
self
everybody,
belief to do it.
not everybody, not every business owner, not every
It's
CEO,
true.
not every leader. You work with the
This is true.
minority that is actually the truth.
This is true.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I think a lot of people are going to hear you say that and they're going to be like, my boss doesn't give a shit about community.
That's so fair. It's so fair. And honestly, that's it's really sad to hear that, but that is a reality of the world. There are so many people that are in this world that could give a crap. Like I know people I know people who are like this. I would never by choice associate with them or ever spend time with them because they are way more on the I'm going to get mine and F the world, right? Like I'm not going to be here in 50 years. And so I'm not going to have to deal with climate change. It's like that type of neglect and lack of stewardship of this belief that our what we do today impacts future generations. And so it's a bigger dialogue to this whole conversation around why would someone actually care about using their spare time to build a better, brighter future, regardless of paychecks? Like, let's, that's an existential question. You have, okay, number one, the fact that you have life is something that I personally believe you should be grateful for. Not you should. It would
You do believe
behoove
you
you.
should be no, and let's
It
be honest, be real. You think people should be grateful for it. A lot of people aren't.
I think that it would benefit a large majority, if not every single person, to be grateful for the life that they have. And I think that there's far too many people who are not, who believe that they're entitled to life and they have a wild sense of entitlement and arrogance towards life, that life owes them something.
I don't disagree. I think a lot of people on the other end of the spectrum, though, feel like life is terrible and that life there's so many horrible things in the world and life is really tragic and life like I didn't ask to be here and so why am I going to spend more effort doing things when life already just feels terrible and feels meaningless and I have to go to a job every day that I hate to pay for things that the economy is terrible and everything is too expensive and I can barely function and I
Mhm.
can barely have enough food to pay my to money to pay for rent and to buy groceries and to do all of these things like you talk to the minority but
Yeah.
this is what the majority feels. You know, there's this really deep sense of injustice and unfairness that so many people are experiencing. And it's like, I'm not going to try to make the entire world a better place. Like, the world sucks. I'm going to do what I can to get through it. Which,
Yeah.
to our last episode, alcohol is a big part of that. Social media is a big part of that. Like,
Mm.
doing pleasure centered activities is a huge part of that. It's the world is a terrible place where these massive conglomerate companies and these organizations are doing nothing but making this world a worse place and making tons of money for themselves while the 99% suffer and have to deal with the rest of the consequences. Now, do I
Yeah.
fully agree with that? No, but I do agree with a part of it. Like, even think
Mm.
about something like politics.
Mhm.
Politicians don't have to live by the same rules that we do. They can basically go on the media, say whatever the hell that they want, and behind the scenes, they live radically different lives.
Mm.
There's a lot of there is a lot of bad that happens in the world and I understand why people I don't fully agree with it, but I understand why people feel this radical sense of hopelessness and like why should I care
Yeah.
when life feels so heavy and negative and bad for them. It's like, I'm not going to help my manager meet his quota this month. Like, screw my manager. He doesn't care about me. So, why should I care? Why should I invest extra effort to make them more money when they clearly don't care about me and they pay me minimum wage, which doesn't even allow me to pay rent? When your rent
Mhm.
is $2,200 for a studio apartment.
I can hear that perspective,
I
absolutely,
know you have
and
a radically different perspective, so I'm super excited, and again,
mhm,
like, just
yeah.
say it and we'll rumble.
Well, number 1, I think that, whatever core belief that you have, you're going to find evidence that supports that. So if you think, and to this point, like worldview, right? There is evidence to show and support that if you think that this is a terrible world, that is all you're going to allow yourself to see. And you're actually going to search out the evidence that supports your belief. So that's number 1. I know there's a lot of people that have instilled a world belief or a worldview that actually gets passed down generationally, and that's a systemic issue, right? The world is a bad place. Let's say you hear that from your parents. That's a worldview that gets passed down, inserted and downloaded, programmed into your subconscious, and then you start to believe that. Or life doesn't have any meaning. Life is just you're here for a good time, right? That's a motto or a belief that gets passed down, and you start to develop this. And or when you experience some really horrendous things, either directly to yourself or you observe it or even you become aware of it as you evolve and grow up and experience this world, right? You develop these coping strategies of making meaning of the world. And if your best strategy is to say that, you know, the it meaning doesn't even matter because you're just here for a second or a blip in time, whatever the narrative is, right? Like that's still a strategy of your brain to try to construct meaning in the world. So it's still a function of your system, of the bigger system that's at play. Now, one of the things one of the things that I would say is that if to that point, kind of the bridge is if you genuinely believe that your manager, your boss, the organization doesn't care for you, leave. And I know people would be like, Amelia, it's so easy for you to say, you don't have this, you don't have that. Like all of these like things that, okay, fair. And freedom of choice that gets down to a bigger question. Well, if I have 3 kids and I need to pay this rent and I need to do this, then I need to go to the job. Well, there's also an option to downside. There's also an option to change the way in which you operate your life, right? I'm sure what's fascinating is that people would really rather communicate this victim mentality than they actually would doing something about it. There's far more evidence to support that. And why? Because of exactly what you just said, right? This boss doesn't care for me, right? Why should I do this? It's more of a why should instead of, that's an interesting thought. Maybe I could, right? Maybe there's an alternative road. There's an alternative path. Will you have to downside? Yes. Will it be challenging? Yes. Will it be uncomfortable to get outside your comfort zone? Absolutely. Will you maybe have to forego TV or entertainment or maybe sell your couch or whatever, right? Like there are things that you can do that could get you in a better space, but it's not going to happen overnight. And it's certainly not just because someone has to go through discomfort or a really difficult challenge doesn't mean that you don't have the abilities and you can't equip yourself eventually to fully get through it.
Evolve Ventures has a tremendous amount to offer. Not only do they have an ever-growing but still welcoming private Facebook society full of like-minded individuals, they also offer individual coaching. I myself have been coached by both Bianca and Emilia on separate occasions, and it's amazing to look back even a year ago in my life and see how far I've come. You almost don't notice that you're doing better for yourself over time. Not to mention, Out of the Mud, free live virtual event once a month. Can't think of a better way to spend a Wednesday night. You truly can encapsulate the value that it carries unless you've been there yourself and been part of the conversations and the connections that happen, and just access to that kind of information. The resources are just incredible.
I think there are a lot of people that that doesn't apply to because circumstances have been really horrible for them and there isn't a way for them to like downsize or whatever. Like single mom raising 3 kids, lives in some horrible small apartment. Like, how is she gonna downsize even more, right? So, like, I do believe there are instances where this is extremely, extremely difficult. I
Mm.
also agree with you in the sense that a lot of the reason why people won't do that is because of this narrative of I shouldn't have to. The world should be set up in such a way where I shouldn't have to sell my couch. I shouldn't have to do this. The government should take care of us.
Yeah,
The
but wake the heck up. That's not reality. You know, that might sound so aggressive. And I also hold compassion for how aggressive that just came off. And that goes back to that systemic issue of entitlement, you know?
I don't disagree with you, Em. A lot of people don't have the level of belief that you do though, that you could figure it out and that they could figure it out. A lot of people
Right.
feel really trapped in the world. And so they're not going to invest the little time that they feel that they have trying to go get better when they feel like they're clawing through their day to day, just trying to make it. There's so many people who are like that. And listen, I get it. I know your side. I know their side. There's
Mhm.
definitely a middle ground. Not everybody has the level
For
of
sure.
belief that you do. I wish they did.
Mhm.
And there's also this massive sense of helplessness that so many people are experiencing that it's like, there's
Yeah.
nothing I can do. I feel so helpless. I feel so stuck. I feel so incapable. The world just consistently feels like it's out to get me, and there's
Mhm.
nothing that I can do. Like, the majority of my clients are in that space where it's like
Yeah.
the world is just this horrible place, and no matter what I do, it's not gonna matter. So, like, no, I'm not gonna go do all of this extra stuff. I'm gonna try to just make it to the next day whatever way that I can, and
Mm.
it's really, really devastating because, in all honesty, one of the answers to this, which we did an episode before about this, is our parents having taught all of us
Mm.
independence and autonomy and emotional regulation and our school systems and all of this stuff, teaching us these really critical skills that we all need to learn. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So it's like, okay, I'm an adult. I can't keep pointing the finger at my parents and all of this stuff. Like, I have to live in the reality of now.
Mhm.
And right now, what do I do? Like, what
Yeah.
am I supposed to do? How do I get out of this? How do I make it to the next minute? Like, how do I move on? Because I can't go back and change what I should have done or shouldn't have done. So, what
Mm.
do I do now? And I fully agree with your point that not always, but more often than not, there is something that can be done. And a lot of the times it is really uncomfortable. Like, I have this client who's in extreme nihilism. He believes that like anarchy is going to be the thing that cures the world. Like, blow up all of the police stations and like do all of, and I'm like, that's not going to solve anything. Like, what is that? What do you think that's going to do? And he's like, well, anarchy starts this and then we'll all come together as a community. I'm like, that's not how the world works.
Yeah.
But he was telling me that he and his wife are in these really dire circumstances because he hates his job. He works as an electrician, and he very much follows this narrative of like, our company always works for these pharmaceutical companies, building all of these things for them that they don't deserve because pharmaceutical companies are like ruining the world and whatever, right? So he's like, I'm not going to go above and beyond. Like, screw them. They're making millions of dollars and they're mad about how a light fixture looks. It's like, no, I'm not going to do extra for them. So
Mm.
he and his wife are in these really difficult circumstances. She's working a job that she hates and that is making her terrible money.
Mhm.
And he's like, why don't you just leave? And she's like, because I'm comfortable here.
Right.
It's like their lives would be so much better if she were to actually finish her degree, and because her degree is in medicine, so she could make really good money and like do really well for herself. But she doesn't want to finish her degree, and
The
she's
irony of that.
stuck. I know, and she's stuck in her job, and doesn't want to leave it because it's easier. She hates it, but the job is easy. And it's like the
Oh,
clear cut answer there is she leaves and gets a better job, but she won't do it. So he feels hopeless of like, what am I supposed to do? So he's drinking a ton and using nihilism and anarchy and like socialism is the cure and like whatever as all of these like how to fix all of it. And it's just
yeah.
like that's not the answer. So like
Mm, I see you.
there's a healthy middle ground. There is an adaptive functional middle ground in all of this for everybody. And
Yeah, definitely.
do I sincerely believe that everybody should use every ounce of their spare time to go get better? No, I really don't. We need leisure. We need
I also agree with
like
that.
we
Yeah,
need
for sure.
frolicking. We need these like
Yeah.
fun activities. Like I freaking love TikTok. I said this on the last episode.
Oh,
I love TikTok. I love scrolling through it. It's hilarious. And I do also invest a lot of time in developing myself occupationally, professionally, personally, physically, socially, emotionally. Like, I
mm,
have a healthy balance of all of it. And now balance is not 50-50. Balance like is like a recipe. A little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this. You put it all together in whatever way that you need to make work for your life. But
mm,
investing your time in the things that are going to benefit you holistically, it's never going to be wrong. It'll never be bad for you. What will be bad for you is maintaining this helpless, hopeless mindset that the world is this terrible place and nothing good will ever come of it. Because what if you're the one person that could start a cascade effect in the people around you? Like we said this in the last episode too. What if you were the one person in your life to get sober? And then another friend hears that you got sober and then made the decision to get sober too. And then
mm,
one of their friends made the decision to get sober. It starts this cascading effect,
mm.
but we don't see it that way. So, what if you decided to start simply and super easily investing time into different things? Imagine how much of an improvement your life would be, even if it was 5 minutes. Something small. What if you just started meditating or did a 1 minute breathing exercise once a week and
Mm.
started there? You have no idea the impact that that could have on your life.
There's some really cool research actually that's about meditation. People who meditate, their brains look 7.5 years younger than those who don't meditate.
That's
So like
cool.
that, think about like just 1 minute a day, 30 seconds a day. You're still compounding that time better off. And what does a better brain look like? What does that do? What's the functionality of that? How can you give back? Like all of those things. So I don't fully disagree with you in any of these things shared. I don't fully agree.
I
Um,
know.
I think
It was
it,
a
what
good conversation, though.
I
Spicy.
we're just getting started on this, but I do think that it is really important to recognize, like, as soon as you're quick to point the finger of, um, whenever you're pointing the finger, I think that there's something that you're not also equally taking ownership over, and
I
I
agree.
haven't really found contrary evidence to support that. So I think that, time in a nutshell is a very interesting conversation, very existentialist dialogue around here, right? What is considered spare time? How do you define that even? And I think if you're a victim of your circumstance, or if you're a victim in your own narrative, your own story, your own life, and you see yourself as such, I don't think you're ever going to have the mindset of investing your spare time. I don't think that you're going to want to do anything, quite frankly, other than try to alleviate any pain and suffering you do have. And so I understand, I have compassion, and I know that there's a ladder to be built from that victim mindset. And I do know of many of people, and I think that that's what's actually really hopeful around this whole conversation. I know many people who have gone from not feeling like they have any spare time, not very nihilistic, to in a very much of a victim mindset, to building a ladder that they've climbed out of that drama triangle in their own heads and in their own worlds, and then have been able to give back to society that has actually been that ripple effect. So
Mm.
I know that what's wild is it's not just about the one person. It's about what one person can have an impact on the world, right? And it might not be this big giant world, but it's your tiny world that you exist in. So, anyways, thank you for the dialogue. I have so many points that I want to dig in here, but I also know we need to move forward. So, thank you, B.
What's your episode suggestion?
My episode, oh, and last thing, last comment. My episode suggestion is 168 is your past determining your future. And the last thing that I want to say on this is that, like, when you, no, I'm not even going to go there. I'm sorry. I'm not
Oh,
sorry. Please go to
oh,
your episode suggestion
oh.
because that's going to open a can of worms. Keep going.
I'm so interested. 319, the meaning of life.
Oh,
This
good one.
was a spicy spice dialogue. We know a lot of people are going to have a lot of feelings about it, and that's okay. Send us a DM. Let us know your thoughts. We'd love to engage with you further and really see what you took away from this. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye,
Bye,
man.
everybody.